I was 29, living in a small, sagging house in a forgotten corner of Detroit, Michigan, in the winter of 2024. My parents had come to stay with me for a week, worried about how I'd been struggling since my freelance coding gigs dried up. My mom filled the house with her nervous energy, cooking meals I barely touched, while my dad tried to keep things light, cracking jokes about the city's potholes. The house was old, its windows rattling in the wind, the street outside a mix of boarded-up homes and flickering streetlights. What happened that week, in the safety of my own home, turned it into a place I can never return to, a creeping terror that still whispers to me in the dark. It was the third night, a bitter Tuesday with snow piling up outside, the kind of cold that seeps into your bones. We were in the living room, my parents on a lumpy couch I'd salvaged from a thrift store, me in a chair by the window, trying to focus on a book. Around 11 p.m., I heard it, a voice, clear and familiar, calling from the street. "Hey, kid, hello." It was my dad's voice, rough from years of smoking, the same tone he'd used to call me in from playing as a kid. I laughed, turning to him on the couch. "What, you sneaking out for a smoke already?" I said, but his face went slack, his eyes wide. "I'm right here," he said, his voice low, almost a whisper. My mom grabbed his hand, her knuckles white. I stood, peering out the window, the streetlight casting a sickly yellow glow on the snow. There was a figure standing there, just beyond the light's edge, tall and broad-shouldered, like my dad. He raised a hand, waving, and called again, "Hello, kid, come on out." But the voice was wrong now, too sharp, like it was mimicking my dad but couldn't get the pitch right. My dad was on his feet now, staring out the window beside me, his breath ragged. "That's not me," he said, and the figure tilted its head, its face still hidden in shadow. The air in the house turned heavy, like a storm was brewing inside. The lights flickered, just a quick stutter, but enough to make my mom gasp. I grabbed my phone to call 911, but the screen was frozen, showing a photo of my dad from last summer, grinning at a barbecue. Except now, his eyes were wrong, black, like ink had spilled into them, his smile too wide, splitting his face. I dropped the phone, and it hit the floor with a crack, the screen going dark. The voice called again, louder, "Come on, kid, it's me." But it was layered now, like a dozen voices speaking at once, each one slightly off, grating against my nerves. My dad pulled the curtains shut, his hand shaking, and locked the front door, though the chain was already rusted and loose. My mom was praying under her breath, something she only did when things got bad. The voice kept calling, relentless, now joined by a scraping sound, like boots dragging across the porch. I grabbed a baseball bat from the hall closet, my heart pounding so hard I thought it'd burst. "Stay here," I told my parents, but my dad grabbed my arm. "Don't you dare go out there," he said, his voice breaking. The scraping moved to the windows, slow and deliberate, like someone testing the glass. The curtains didn't block the sound, it was everywhere, circling the house, the voice still calling, "Hello, kid, open the door." My mom was sobbing now, clutching a rosary she hadn't touched in years. The lights went out completely, plunging us into darkness, and the air smelled wrong, thick with a stench like wet asphalt and something sour, like bile. My flashlight, tucked under the couch, barely worked, its beam flickering like it was afraid to shine. Then the knocking started, not at the door but from inside the walls, a heavy, rhythmic thud that shook the floor. My phone lit up again, unprompted, showing that same warped photo of my dad, and it started playing a voicemail I hadn't seen. It was his voice, or something pretending to be his, saying, "I'm outside, kid. Let me in." But it wasn't coming from the phone. It was coming from the hallway, where the shadows seemed to twist, forming a shape that was almost my dad but wrong, too tall, its limbs bending at angles that made my stomach churn. Its face was a smudge, no features, just a black void where his eyes should have been, and it was smiling, a grin that stretched too far, showing teeth that glinted like broken glass. My mom screamed, and my dad shoved the couch against the hallway entrance, like it could keep that thing out. The knocking grew louder, faster, and the voice was inside the house now, whispering from every corner, "You can't leave me out there." I swung the bat at the shadow, but it dissolved, reappearing closer, its void face inches from mine. I felt a coldness, like ice sinking into my skin, and the smell was unbearable, choking me. My parents were shouting, pulling me back, and we ran for the back door, fumbling with the lock. The thing didn't follow, it just stood there, its grin widening, the house shaking with its knocks. We burst onto the porch, the snow stinging our faces, and piled into the minivan. My dad floored it, the tires spinning before catching, and we tore down the street. The figure was still there, under the streetlight, waving slowly, its voice echoing in my head even as we sped away. "Come back, kid!" We didn't stop until we hit a 24-hour diner miles away, the three of us shaking, too terrified to speak. My parents slept in the minivan, refusing to go back, and at dawn, we grabbed what we could from the house. Clothes, my laptop, nothing else. The place looked normal in the daylight, but the air still felt wrong, like it was watching us leave. I sold the house a week later, moved to a new place in Ann Arbor, and my parents went back to Ohio, their faces haunted. But it's not over. My phone still lights up at night, showing Dad, his photo warped, those black eyes staring. I don't answer, but the voicemails come anyway, that sharp, layered voice saying, "I'm still outside." And sometimes, when the wind rattles my new windows, I hear that scraping, like boots on my porch, and I see that void face in my dreams, waving, waiting for me to let it in.